Is there any world where a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old is a grown woman?
Well, I don't know any 6 or 9-year-old that can get pregnant. So,
if you notice what I said earlier, I said I've seen with my 2 eyes a 9-year-old girl got pregnant out of wedlock actually, and gave birth when she was 10. And I heard of a second person got pregnant at the age of 9. Okay, and this person is from my hometown, got pregnant at the age of 9 and gave birth at the age of 10. So this is something that, like I said, if a lady starts to menstruate, the body sends a signal that they can take in. That's the signal it sends, and it keeps reminding you every month, this is nature. You can't deny nature. You can't lie to nature. When nature comes knocking, your body has to respond. Okay, like I said, I've seen.
Let's say she's bled at 6. Is it okay to sleep with her at 6 years old so she bled?
I'm not.
I didn't ask if you're not. I asked, is it okay?
For someone else to do this?
Anyone.
I've been taught that that's wrong, so I would say don't do that. No.
You say don't do that.
That's what I've been taught.
Muhammad did it.
Like I said, this guy is coming from a Western world where you are told that these things are not okay. Okay, but then when you go back, like I said, in the 18th century, when you go back, this is the norm then. It is perfectly okay for you to have a bride that is 7 years old or and above. Like I said earlier, Delaware. I think that's the minimum I've seen, 7 years old. And I've seen other states with 10, 11, 12. Okay, so to them as of that time, it is not an issue. If there is the possibility of her getting hurt in the process, then Islam clearly forbids it. وَلَا تُلْكُ بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى تَهْلُكَ. Do not, throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. So if it's going to bring harm, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly forbids it.
So
what defines
no excuses, Grayson. No excuses.
Like I said, this is common with Avery. He always likes to corner people until they admit to what he wants them to admit to. And you see the first admission from this brother where he said, Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
Be able to condemn Muhammad for sleeping with a little girl?
If she was a little girl, yes.
Do you think a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old is a little girl?
The 6 or 9-year-olds that I see today, yes, they are little girls.
Will you condemn Muhammad for doing that?
If Muhammad slept with a little girl, then yes.
According to the sources, he did. According to Islam, that's who they're trying to tell you to follow. Someone who slept with a little girl and said that God showed her to him in a dream. He's using.
It is funny how Avery twists the narrative to suit his own view of the whole thing, just to win a soul. Like I said, Romans 3:7, Paul said, if his falsehood brings truth through the truthfulness of God, why would he be condemned as a sinner? Something in this line. It simply shows that one can lie if it's going to bring about the truthfulness of what they believe to be God. Again, the issue of Muhammad sallallahu and Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, is a very fascinating thing when you think about it. The Prophet sallallahu never chased after Aisha radiallahu anha. Khawla bint Hakim was the one that brought the suggestion to the Prophet sallallahu and suggested Aisha to be his bride after he lost Khadija. Before this proposal, Aisha was betrothed to someone called Jubair bin Mut'im. Please put this down. If it wasn't a norm back then why would Aisha be betrothed to Jubair bin Mut'im? However, these fell apart, and there's a reason why. Jubair bin Mut'im wasn't a Muslim, and Aisha radiallahu anha was a Muslim, accepted Islam. Her parents were Muslims, and Islam forbids the marriage of a woman to someone that is not a Muslim. But then a Muslim man can marry a woman that is not a Muslim. The reason is the children are his, not for the woman. This is the ruling in Islam. Okay, so if a woman goes to marry someone that is not a Muslim, then the children would be his and not for her. So the marriage between them fell apart. The Prophet ﷺ never went chasing after Aisha radiallahu anha. Yes, he might have dreamt and shown in a vision that Aisha is going to be his wife. This wasn't the reason why Khawla bint Hakim came and suggested Aisha. No, he knew this was going to happen, and Khawla came and suggested Aisha to the Prophet ﷺ. And the parents agreed. Then the Prophet ﷺ married Aisha at age 6. And then he waited for 3 years until when she was 9. She was fully ready when he consummated the marriage with Aisha radiallahu anha. So I don't really see the point this guy is trying to drive to. But then let's continue.
He's using God as an excuse for him to be able to do this.
That's pretty weird.
Yep. What if the Quran taught that this was permissible?
What? To sleep with a...
To sleep with little girls before they hit puberty. What if the Quran taught that this was okay? That you can marry them, divorce them, sleep with them?
Well, the whole...
Do you have any sisters?
Yes.
How old is your sister?
I don't want to talk about my sister's age, but I have 2 sisters.
Okay, are they young or older?
Both.
Let's say she was younger than what she is now. I don't know how old she is. Let's say she was in elementary. I don't know if she is or not, but let's just say hypothetically. And a 50-year-old man came and tried to spit game at your sister.
Again, the Prophet ﷺ, like I said earlier, he did not go and start talking to Aisha. Khawla bint Hakim suggested her to him, and Khawla bint Hakim went to her parents' house and requested Aisha's hand for the Prophet ﷺ.
And try to get her hand in marriage.
Yeah, no, it's not even funny. It'd be weird.
Would you think he's a predator for going after a little girl in elementary at the age of 50?
Yeah.
That's what Mama did.
Again, like I said, Muhammad never did that. Khawla bint Hakim suggested her to him and he accepted it. Khawla bint Hakim went to her parents' house and requested Aisha's hand in marriage to the Prophet ﷺ. Put this down, okay? So whenever you see this guy Avery, you can drive that information into his head.
Muhammad's a predator, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's quite unfortunate that this guy would rush to conclude without understanding how corny Avery is. You know, you have to understand this guy, and you have to understand how to discuss with people like this.
If he says that God said it's okay to do this, to sleep, have relations with little girls, marry, divorce them, sleep with them. If he taught that God said this, that this was permissible, would he be lying or would he be telling the truth?
He would.
Again, look at what this guy is saying, that if the Prophet ﷺ said having sexual relationship with little girls, marrying them, having relationship with them, then divorcing them, if the Prophet ﷺ said this, what would you consider him to be?
Lying. Because there's no point. The whole point of sleeping is to have a child. So if the girl can't get impregnated, then it's completely for your pleasure, which is against Christianity and Islam, that don't do things for your pleasure.
It is not against Christianity. Like I said, in the whole Bible, the New Testament, there is no discussion on the issue of the age of consent, because this is something that has been discussed in the Old Testament and the Torah, the book of the Jewish people. And they understand that this is okay. In fact, they go as low as 3 years old. You can imagine that. And Islam says no, until she hits puberty, until she matures. Aisha might have been 9, yes. She might have been playing with dolls. Adults do play with dolls. But was she mature enough? And the answer is yes. We can't compare them with the people of today.
All right. So here's the verse here. It's chapter 65, verse 4.
Okay, I don't understand.
So this is what's happening. So the chapter is called divorce. All right.
Okay.
So it's telling you what to do with the females when you divorce them. What's the ruling? Okay. So right here, it gives you 3 categories of females. It gives you, the first category it gives you are women who are too old to menstruate. Right. So it says, as of your women who have despaired further menstruation, meaning they're too old to further menstruate.
Okay.
Right? They're menopause.
In other words, they cannot menstruate. Remember, he said there are 3 categories of women here. So please note this. It is important. There are 3 categories of women.
So what happens when you divorce this type of woman? If you are in doubt about what? It's talking about her being pregnant.
You see, this guy, subhanallah. You see the way he imposed his own meanings to the Quran, subhanallah. Period. And he said, about what? In case she gets pregnant. Where did you see that? It doesn't make any sense.
Okay? All right, if
Oh,
you are
yeah.
in doubt about her being pregnant or whatever, then their period shall be 3 months. Right? So this is they should wait 3 months before being able to move on to the next man.
See, and there's a reason why this guy is doing this. And we'll see this, and inshallah, we're going to analyze, all this.
Okay.
To make sure she's not pregnant,
Okay.
Clear. Then it also says here, and those who have not menstruated yet. So the females that you're divorcing who have not menstruated yet, their waiting period is 3 months as well. You've slept with.
As you can see clearly, it is written there, young. But then he translated it to children.
These girls, they haven't menstruated yet, but you fear that she could possibly still get pregnant anyway.
You see, he keeps. Subhanallah, let's continue. Okay, I wouldn't want to say anything now. I would talk later.
3 months is the monthly cycle.
I guess it's still weird, but how do you know that they've slept with them yet, or have they just married? Just like
Very good question. Let me show you. So notice how they have a waiting period, right? They have a period of 3 months.
All right.
When they're being divorced. How do we know that the men have slept with these females? This is what the Quran says in chapter 33, verse 49.
33:49. Here we go. Believers, you have no right to expect a waiting period when you marry believing women and then divorce them before you have touched them. Make provision for them and release them in an honorable way.
So do you say that?
Wait,
That they don't have a waiting period unless you have touched them.
They don't need to have a waiting period in between the next marriage if you have not touched them yet.
Exactly. So how do you know that these men slept with these girls who haven't hit puberty yet? It's because they have a waiting period. We go back to the verse. It says,
and I believe Avery must have seen the word called amenorrhea. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, but amenorrhea. So let's see what this means. So it says here, no menses. In other words, these people are yet to menstruate. They said it is the absence of monthly menstrual period. Seeking medical care, see a doctor if you miss 3 or more menstrual period, are aged 15 or older, and have never had a menstrual period. So it tells us that there are people, that are young ladies that have hit 15 and above and are yet to see their menstrual cycle. So as you can see, the word used that I said you should note, young, and Avery changed it to what? Child.
Says their period shall be 3 months, and the same for those who have not menstruated yet. Their waiting period is also 3 months. And because they have a waiting period, for the ones who haven't menstruated yet, they haven't hit puberty yet, it means that they slept with them. That's why they have a waiting period.
So it's saying that it's permissible to sleep with a woman. Or I mean, it's saying that it's been, if that happens, meaning that's a normal thing.
It's allowed in Islam to sleep with little girls, to marry them, sleep with them, and divorce them. Just to make sure you see that it's not me that's interpreting it this way, let me show you what the scholars say. And Ibn Kathir breaks this down very well. The iddah, which is the waiting period of those in menopause, right? Those women who are past the age of menstruation, and those who do not have menses, meaning they haven't had their periods yet. So he breaks it down. Look, Allah the Exalted clarifies the waiting period of the woman in menopause, and that is the one whose menstruation has stopped due to her older age. Her iddah is 3 months instead of the 3 monthly cycles for those who menstruate, which is based on chapter 2, verse 228. Now here's the important part. Here it is. The same for the young who have not reached the years of menstruation. Their iddah is 3 months. Their waiting period is 3 months, just like those in menopause. This is the meaning of his saying, and for those who have no courses, or for those who haven't menstruated yet. So he breaks it down. Even quotes like the background situation of this. Supporting this view is what is reported by Ubay ibn Ka'b, that he said, "O Allah's messenger, some women were not mentioned in the Quran, the young, the old, and the pregnant. So Allah, the Exalted, Most Honored, sent down this ayah." So at first there was a verse, like chapter 2, verse 228, that told them what to do in regards to divorce.
So as we can see here, it is clear that Avery is totally insincere. And the reason is, when you look at what Ibn Kathir said, Ibn Kathir made it clear why the period was mentioned. So as you can see here, if you have doubt, and Avery translated this to mean if you think she's pregnant or you're in doubt that she might be pregnant, then you would have to wait for that period. It says there are two opinions. First is the saying of a group of Salaf like Mujahid, Az-Zuhri and Ibn Zayd. That is, if they see blood and there is doubt if it is menstrual blood or not. This is the first view. The second is that if you do not know the ruling in this case, then know that their iddah is 3 months. This has been reported from Sa'id bin Jubair, and it is the view preferred by Ibn Jarir. And this is the more obvious meaning. Supporting this view is what is reported from Ubay bin Ka'b, that he said, O Allah's Messenger, some women were not mentioned in the Quran, like I said earlier, the young, the old, and the pregnant. So remember that verse he quoted was talking about the women that menstruate. So now the companions are talking about, okay, what about the young, what about the older one, and what about the one that is pregnant? Then this verse was revealed. They have their separate ruling. Please note this. They have their separate ruling that is not the same with that one that talks about the woman, that talks about a woman. So in summary, there are 4 categories of women in Islam, and they all have their rulings. The first is the elderly that has hit menopause. The second is the young that is yet to menstruate. And these two have the same ruling. The third is the one that is menstruating. Remember, the first and second, they don't see menstruation. The third is the one that menstruates, and she has a different ruling. If you're married to someone like that and you're yet to consummate the marriage with that person, what do you do when you divorce her? You let her go immediately. But if you've consummated the marriage, then she would have to wait for a period of time. But when it comes to the elderly and the very young that don't see menstruation, what do? They have to wait. They have to wait. It doesn't matter you consummate the marriage. It doesn't matter you've not consummate the marriage. That doesn't matter. What Allah has said is you have to wait. There's a separate ruling. And the last is, if she's pregnant and you divorce her, she would have to wait as long as it takes until she gives birth. So these are different rulings, as you can see. The pregnant one would have to wait until she gives birth before she leaves. The one that is menstruating, the woman, she would have to leave immediately if she's not consummated the marriage. But if she's consummated the marriage with you, then she would have to wait for 3 months. If the husband died even before consummating the marriage, she would have to wait for 4 months. Lastly, the ones that don't see menstruation, the elderly that has hit menopause, the young that is yet to menstruate or has not reached the age of menstruation. This is the opinion of Ibn Kathir. But what the Quran says is the young that is yet to menstruate. It could be someone suffering from amenorrhea. This shows that the Quran covers every type of woman. And like I said, I showed you what amenorrhea is, and this is something I think Avery should go and study. This is the summary. And please, when you discuss with people like this, try to be very smart. All they do is to, repeat something until you sleep and you see what you're not supposed to say. So with this, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you can support the channel, try to do that. I remain your brother Abdul. Catch you in the next one.